Hey now. What's up, rockers? How's everybody doing? What's happening? What's shaking? What's shaking? What is this, number 181, I think? My knees hurt says, I thought Pete got a new coffee maker. We did. We got a new coffee maker. It's true. Yeah. The coffee's ready. I know. I was just a minute late. Come on. I actually was making it. Here it is. In my tools of the trade mug. You got your Strat. You got your Les Paul. What happened this week? What did you guys do this week? I made a video for a Friedman BE-Mini little tiny amplifier. That came out. And in that video, I used it in a couple ways that I haven't seen anybody do yet, which is just as a 30-watt power amp to reamp my old Marshall. That's not my old Marshall back there, actually. That's a different Marshall that I borrowed. I'm making a video right now for one of those hot mod things that you plug into the V2 tube socket of an amp like that, like a, sort of JCM 800 or 2203, 2204 spec Marshall. It's cool. It actually sounds really good, I must say. Like really good, solid, more gain, kind of like similar gain to a Jose mod or something like that, I guess, which isn't like outrageously gainy or anything by modern standards. But it does a nice thing to the amp. I mean, that amp sounds pretty good, actually. It's not too bad. I'm not the biggest. They're okay, like an 800 or a 2203, 2204 spec. They're a little big in the low end and a little, but at lower gain or mid gain, they can sound really good. But anyway, it does a nice thing to an amp like that, and it sounds, I think probably better than. It's cool, Not only is there more gain, it kind of improves the tone, sort of tightening up the low end Ys and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm making a video right now with that. But anyways, the other thing I did with the my 72 Marshall sitting on the floor back there, I reamped the 72 Marshall using the Suhr reactive load, taking a line out and then going into the little Friedman BE-Mini 30-watt power amp via the return, plugged it into my cabinet and mic'd it up. And you can hear what that sounds like in the video if you haven't seen it. I also used it as a power amp for a wet-dry setup. So I just thought I would make a different kind of video where it's like I'm using it in a couple of different ways than just playing rock riffs through it, which I also did in the video. That's what most people are going to use it for. But it just, I don't know. So why not show a couple other things that you can do with it? Yeah. Why not? How are you feeling, says Van Boingo. Pretty good. A little self-inflicted pain. I had a couple beverages last night. I think the good limit for me at this age is 2. If I stop at 2, I don't feel anything the following day. If I go to 3, it feels so good. Got to listen to yourself. Listen to your instincts. But anyways, I'm fine though. I did after Sunday last week. I actually went on a total like juice cleanse fast, which I probably buggered up last night because I had some beverages. But I didn't actually end up eating almost no solid food for 4 days and just did juice, which always helps. And that did tend to reset me a little bit. But I'm still my stupid system. You guys don't want to hear about my problems. You don't want to hear about my problems. Lauren wants to know about the Clear Mountain Part 2 video. So I have this footage on this drive over there, and I just need to hook it up and just motivate myself to finish it. And that's what I should do. Yeah. So that's my answer, Lauren. It's just a question of prioritizing finishing that. But I've had it there for a couple of years on that drive. But there's some great stuff in it, mostly on some interesting things about him using the Clear Mountains domain plugin, which I have now and really like. So maybe I'll just incorporate that footage into sort of a demo video or something of that plugin, because that would be the easiest thing. He used it on this mix that he did for me that day when I was over there and filming that video. At least I think he did. Yeah, he showed if he I think he was using it in the video as well as his he had, had full SSL with like his regular chain, but the plugin basically copies his um his interesting signal chain that he's developed over the years for mixing, and effects, reverb, delay, de-essing. It's cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So what else? Let's see. Austin says, I enjoy all of your demos. I am really considering getting a BEOD or deluxe. Don't know which one to get. The deluxe is just the dual channel, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, which is, that's fun to have because you can set up two different sounds. But if you only need the one sound, go for it. I don't know. That's not great advice, I guess. But it's just if you need to foot switch between two separate levels, or if you just want one sort of. To me, the BEOD is like a great um, modded Marshall sound. So, Stealth Parrot says, "Rest in peace, Dusty Hill." I agree. That's right. Dusty passed away this week, which was sad. I've got to say, I'm at least. The word isn't happy, but he went in his sleep, and I always think that's the best way to go. He was 72 years old. He kicked ass. He had a great life. And I saw ZZ Top. I'll never forget the first time I saw him was probably 82. I was a little kid, and I was on the floor in like maybe this third or fourth row, really up close, and there was maybe 5,000 people there at the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton, and it was great. And everybody there looked like bikers. I mean, it was like this hardcore, like ZZ Top crowd. I saw them in '84 for the Eliminator tour a couple of years later, and there was 14,000 teenagers there. And it was amazing how they'd transformed themselves into a band that went through. I mean, they're still a band, but it's like the '70s and the '80s to be, sort of like completely reinvent themselves. I mean, I guess we saw sort of the Stones do that through the years, and some different bands. But if you can last 2 decades like that, not to mention, I mean, still around playing, but I feel like they were uh, really inventive through the '70s and then into the '80s as a current band for like 20 years. After maybe going into the '90s, they became more, just as you get older, they became more sort of like classic rock or something at that point. But we've got to remember that in the '80s they were current. That was the current. When they came out with Eliminator and stuff. And I just find that fascinating how they reinvented themselves. And I literally saw it at the two different gigs that I went to. Whoa, like there's all these teenagers here this year. This is crazy. Steve Harshbarger is up there in the sorry, Steve, in the super chat. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. Whoa, Byron's in Hawaii. I want to be there. I was thinking about Hawaii this morning. I want to be there. I just want to be there. Oh, I do. Yeah. Tactical Six String says that he loves when I'm on as he works Fridays through Mondays, and you're almost done with work. Well, hey, happy weekend to you. It's coming up for you. Yeah. Purists may not agree, but Eliminator was wonderful. Great tunes, brilliant videos. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. You can't deny that it was very creative at the time, like for a band. ZZ Top was so interesting because a lot of people think about them like I think if they're not really in the know or haven't really gotten into the records deep, they think of them as, beer drinkers and hellraisers or something. And that's the ZZ Top, and it's like, that they know as or whatever, or the first couple records in the way. But then when I got into ZZ Top was right at El Loco, so that record's really weird and cool. Like it's so weird and creative and interesting, and just a bizarre, that band. I mean, I guess it's Billy being in Moving Sidewalks and stuff, and the psychedelic background and stuff like that. But they're not some Texas blues band. They are that, but they're so much more, and really a creative, interesting and the style and everything was a big part of it. I mean, the way that they married all that, was so cool and unique, and just they branded themselves, and like folks like years later, folks like Jack White, I think, take a lot from that, with White Stripes, and the way that it's them the second you see them, like there's no, it's not like, well, who are those guys? Oh, I recognize the singer, but no one else. They really did that thing where it was stylized, and then the music was really crazy, and just how did they, like, what are some of the songs that I'm thinking of? I mean, Cheap Sunglasses. I mean, that whole bridge is so cool and weird. Like, uh, you know, Party on the Patio, like those songs. That's what I was originally. That was my. I thought this music's so weird and cool. Like, I just loved it. With great guitar too, of course. But anyways, Dusty, rest in peace, Dusty. Love the band. Love that band, really. Arthur's up there in the super chat, and he says, "Just showing that support. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. I do. Yeah. And yeah, Gary says was surprised to see ZZ continued gigging right after he passed. Yeah, I guess Billy was sort of saying that that's what Dusty wanted to have happen. He's like, is it the fella Elwood, his tech, that got up and replaced him right away. I think he was having hip issues, and that was the initial, like, Dusty, it was before he passed away. Elwood filled in, and Dusty's wish was, yeah, go on and play. Like, I want you to keep going and go do the shows. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I was surprised a little bit too, but I was also surprised when the Who just sort of kept playing 2 days after John Entwistle passed. But it's a complicated thing, obviously, it sounds sort of cold, but the financials of it, canceling shows and stuff like that, there's always tour insurance and things like that. And if you feel like the wish would have been that you just continue to play or whatever, I guess that from those other people, I guess it just all combines. Like, who are we to judge? I don't know. We don't know the internal mechanism. I had the same reaction, though. I did. I thought, oh, that's interesting. But then again, I quickly go to, well, I don't know anything about the inner goings on of that operation and how they think and stuff. So I tend to try and not judge. Gregory says, I always appreciate your positive vibes. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I try and keep it positive. I do. Have a blessed day, says Ronan. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you doing the super chats and being here, hanging with me. What was that woo 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 sound in Cheap Sunglasses? Woo woo. Yeah, I don't know, but it's amazing and weird. And like, who thought of that? Like, that's so cool. It's so weird and cool. I loved it. Okay, so one of the other things I was watching is lots of news about Lollapalooza and how many people were there. How that's going to work out, I guess we'll see. But Lollapalooza and Limp Bizkit. I saw some video of Limp Bizkit playing, and Fred Durst's look is amazing. If you haven't seen it, he looks like some sort of, I don't know. He looks like he owns a bait and like he looks like a fly fisherman or something. He's got on these like khakis and like white socks and shoes, and then he's got like white hair, kind of long and shaggy, but not that long, and then a goatee and these red glasses. And he's got a jacket on that looks like he just like he just got off a boat or something. And it's kind of an amazing look. And it was so wacky. Things are so crazy now. It's like, I must say I kind of liked it. I mean, it's so weird that John says loved Rough Boy. That's a great song. I love that song. Really cool tune. Beautiful song, actually. Isn't it? It's really cool. Some good stuff on there. But yeah. this is an interesting question. So you had some good time with Warren DeMartini, and George L. posted about almost managing to steal Warren's main old Plexi. Have you had a chance to check it out? I did check it out. Yeah, I did, and it's badass. And I actually asked Warren about the possibility of maybe doing an amps in the zone for that amp. So, and he seems somewhat amenable. So we'll see if he I don't want to pushes his amp and stuff, but maybe So we'll see. It's a great sounding amp. It's it's a completely stripped and early 68. But there's been some work done to it, so it's not totally stock or anything like that. Probably, I think Dave said probably Frank Levi did some mods. And so that's all I'll say for now. But it is a really cool amp. It's a really cool amp. It's great. And yeah, what else? What else? What else we got here? Reading through the Alex says thoughts on Mayer's latest album. I really like it. I listened to it in the car one night, and some really interesting songwriting. I think I could sort of care less about like the guitar. Like, he's a great guitar player. But I was like listening to the songs. I don't mean I could care less about the guitar. I just mean like it was secondary to the interesting songwriting to me and the like great songs, which is what I really love. I mean, I just love great songs, like guitar. I love guitar too, but always that's what struck me was I really dug the writing. Some of the changes and stuff are really beautiful. And melodies, how it's working through. There's some great stuff on there. I need to listen to it more though, but I really liked it. Stealth Parrots' Last Train Home is a great song. Yeah, I see people kind of like, on like Gear Page or whatever, and they get so like, I don't know, I don't think it's that good, or like, I don't, whatever, I don't rank it up there with what I'm listening to it going, this is some great songs, man. And I wonder if everybody's just sort of jaded, like sometimes. Do you think? But you know what I mean? Like, honestly, like when there was less music coming out, like, and less sort of, I don't know, it was more, maybe just people valued it higher or something, because I'm listening to it going, this is really good music. Like, and when people are like, there's no good new stuff out, I'm like, oh, come on. Also, that came out this week, and or majority of you guys probably aren't going to care about on my show, is the new Billie Eilish album, which I thought was awesome. I loved it. Listened to it in the car the other day. She's such a great writer. I mean, like the things she writes about, and she's just she's a poet. It's awesome. I really like it. It's a cool record. Creative, unique. She continues to be creative. I was hoping it wasn't going to be a little stagnant and like she would be stuck in one, because she tends to be that kind of like style that she sings in and stuff like that. But it's pretty dynamic actually, which was what I was hoping for, like a little bit of variation and tempos and stuff, and not super down tempo and really mellow and minimalist. It definitely opens up and stuff and gets. So anyways, I enjoyed it, but nice to listen to some new music. Fred's wearing a rig, right? Says Ben. I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. Yeah, it could be a wig and a stick-on goatee. It's possible. It was. That's perfect. Fred looks like he came out of witness protection. Look, watch the video of him. Watch the video of Limp Bizkit at Lollapalooza. It's so wacky and funny. I'm just like, oh God, the world is so funny right now. Like, I don't know. I got a lot of humor out of it this morning. I couldn't stop laughing watching it. It was like, it's so funny. I like when he walks out on stage, because you haven't seen them for a long time or whatever. Like, what's the singer gonna look like? And he comes out looking like that. It's just, there was some thought put into that, and I love it. So, anyways, could you demo the amp tweaker type metal? Well, generally the demos I do are when people contact me to do them. When you see me doing amps in the zone, or comparison of different pedals, or stuff like that, or those types of videos, that's just me coming up with ideas, generally speaking. But the pedal demos, if I was to go, well, I'm going to do a demo of this amp tweaker pedal, that means me going and sourcing one and finding one, getting it, making a video, and spending a couple 3 days doing it, when I've got about 15 other ones out on my shelf, like with people waiting for me to do it, you know. So that's why, just out of time, which is quality problems, but it's just out of time and out of like just it's it's my job. So it's like I have to, it's like, let's say I was a plumber and I've got 10 calls to go fix people's plumbing, but my buddy over here who, just happens to have a leaky faucet or whatever, needs a sink. That's a bad analogy because I would go help my friend. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like when you've got work lined up and people are calling you, like expecting you to do it or whatever, you sort of do the work, I would go help my friend. Okay. If my friend was James Brown and he's like, I really need you to make a video of this amp tweaker pedal, I would totally do it. But if it's just me going, and if it was just me going and walking up to someone's house and knocking on the door going, would you mind if I check your faucets and fix up any problems that you had, when I had other, work that I'm supposed to be doing? That's a better analogy. I'm going to shut up about all that now. I'm just going to be quiet about all of that. You ever do that? You ever get into like drawing an analogy that you think was, like spelling it out, like, and then you realize about halfway into it that this is stupid? Well, I just did it on the internet live for you folks. Yeah. Let's see here. You could have been a plumber, Pete. I could have been. It's true. Plumbers make a lot of money. We might be in the wrong line of work. Just heard last week that James Brown wasn't doing amp tweaker. That's what I assume, because he's at EVH, right? I mean, he's the head of, I think, over there now, isn't he? Like head of the amp design and stuff. I think that's probably his primary focus at this point in time. Yeah. So, Dawn says Billie Eilish is great. Haven't listened to the new one yet. Check it out. It's good. I really like it. If you like the first one, you'll like it. I think I'm a fan. I'm a total fan of hers. I mean, I think she's awesome. I was listening to Billie Eilish's new album on my iPhone, and it sounded like her face was in my phone, right up in your face. Yeah. Hey, thank you, Kako, for the £2 super chat. You're too kind over there in the UK. What's up? Get over there again one of these days and have myself a Costa coffee or a Cafe Nero. Yeah. What else we got here? Victor says you're talking about getting a guitar with EMGs for some time. Did that somehow have something to do with the new Suhr guitars? It didn't, actually. They've got, if those that haven't seen, there's some new Suhr models out now that are sort of a variation on John's original Pensa Suhr guitars with EMGs, and some of them have flame tops. Some of them look a lot like my model, actually, because that's where I took inspiration from for the original signature guitar that I came out with the black top and stuff and the scrape binding. So there's one that looks like that, but with black EMGs. I am getting a guitar with EMGs this week. It's done, basically. So I'm gonna go pick it up, and then I should have it next week. So maybe I'll show it to you next week, and we will see. The whole goal was a quiet guitar. I don't know if it's gonna work. We're gonna see. But with the sealed active pickups and stuff in this room, I've just had other instruments that are very, very quiet, like my bass, which has active pickups of some sort. I think they're German. They're from, it's the bass from Warwick. So, but anyway, so it's a hum single with the Lukather set, signature set, and it should be a really nice looking guitar. I haven't seen it yet, but it's silver. It's Inca silver, I think, is what I chose, and it's black pickguard with black EMGs. So it just should be a pretty sharp looking guitar, I would think. Pretty cool. Yeah. Okay. John says a great song is a great song. I agree. A lot of the Gear Page dudes are stuck in the 70s and 80s. God love them. Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon. I mean, everybody gets stuck in there. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people a lot of folks just, they get out of their teenage years or their 20s, and I think it's when music had a big impact on you, like when you're 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. You're going through this period where there's so much going on in your brain and your becoming an adult, headed towards becoming an adult, and you're going through this like growth explosion. And for whatever reason, art and music resonates with you at that point, most of us, and at least even people that are just peripherally interested in music. And it's a very powerful thing. And then you tend to settle into yourself, into your 20s and your 30s and whatever. And there's less of that. And it just seems like maybe it's just the way we're wired, but that people are less apt, maybe, especially if they don't put in the effort, are less apt to appreciate different kinds of music or newer forms of music, or that can happen really easy. I've seen it. My grandmother used to do it. She'd listen to pretty much anything that wasn't something that happened in the 30s, 40s, or 50s musically, and she would say, "Oh, that's not music." If it was like classical music, she could listen to it, or if it was, probably big band or something, she could hear it and go, "Oh, that sounds familiar, like something that I relate to as music." And then any kind of rock and roll or whatever, so that's not music, whatever, but that's just the way she was, so yeah. Tell me about that top hat head on your left. Oh, so great segue into talking about Top Hat actually is Brian contacted me recently, and I need to hit him back. I did ask him maybe if he would want to be a guest on this show at some point, and he obliged and said sure. So I think that's going to happen. But Brian Gerhard, that head would have been made about 99 or 98 probably. It's basically an AC30, and it's got. So the things that are different from an AC30 are that it's got a master, which as you can see is always on 10. I never use it. It's got a mid-range control, which an AC30 doesn't normally have. And you can see I've always got that generally on 10 as well. And what else is different about it? Of course, it doesn't have a vibrato channel, but it's got the normal and the top boost channels. Now, normally an AC30 wouldn't on the normal channel have a tone control, but Brian added one. And it's a nice thing to have on the normal channel of an AC30 for a really nice, sparkly, clean sound. But it doesn't do exactly, when you add that, it's a little lossy as far as gain goes, and it doesn't do exactly what the normal channel on an AC30 would normally do. Which is the Brian May thing. Now, it's kind of without the tone control, it's rather dark and not very great sounding. But as soon as you add a treble booster, it's magic, and it's Brian May and Rory Gallagher, right? So I had Dave Friedman mod it. So with this push-pull, I can now get the tone control in the circuit or out of the circuit. And that allows me to get a traditional AC30 normal channel and crank it up and hit it with a range master. Or I can have the tone control. It's cleaner and does really nice, sparkly, clean sounds. 4 EL84s, it's pretty much a straight up AC30 style amp. So that's that on the Top Hat. Saw you playing some Uli Roth, great guitar player. Yeah, so cool. I just put up a little clip of me playing some Uli like the other day on my Instagram, so you can check it out. But yeah, I was just having fun learning some. He was so amazing. He's like 1977 and just like ripping, right? I'm gonna get more into it actually because I feel like he's like somebody I haven't appreciated enough. So I need to learn some more and listen to some more stuff. Catch Your Train, says Evan. Yeah, I need to listen to that and like learn some of those licks and stuff. But yeah. It must be nice to have Dave Friedman for a friend. He is one of my best friends, actually. Both Dave and John Suhr are my great friends, and they're a couple super talented dudes. That is for sure. And that is great. Dave's a very generous guy. He's a good friend, and he's very generous and funny, and no bullshit. He's a straight up guy that just what you see is what you get kind of person, and I appreciate that a lot. And a good guy, I mean, if you need, if you're his friend and you need help, like your amp's broken or whatever it is, you need something, he'll just do it for you. You show up and they'll take care of you. He's a good person. So, did you hear the new Mammoth WVH Wolf Van Halen? Thoughts? I think it's great. I mean, have you seen them live doing if you watch some of the performances. I watched some of the Guns N' Roses opening slot this morning, actually, and he sounded awesome. He sings his ass off live. Pretty much a perfect live singer, you know. And I really like the record. I've listened to it a couple times, and I think it's great. And I think that that it's such a strong opener. That Mr. Ed song is just killer. So really good. Levi says that Fair Warning might be the most out there Van Halen album in terms of invention. Yeah, I mean, they were getting out there too, kind of in the same way that, you know, ZZ Top was experimenting. I mean, but Van Halen always kind of did. You know, for a hard rock band, when we think about uh some of the interesting covers they did, like You're No Good on Van Halen 2, to me is a really interesting cover, right? Like the way, like how did that come about? Not to get away from your Fair Warning comment, but You're No Good. Let's slow it down and make it kind of, because it's kind of, even though it's a sort of dark lyric or whatever, it's kind of the original is, you know, like way more up tempo and a little kind of groovy sounding and stuff. And it's like a dance track or something. And then they're like, let's darken this up and make it really, because you know it's just so cool. But anyways, they were good at that. Or you know, Happy Trails, or like the different stuff that they did that was so fun and different than any other hard rock band. Really, that's when, you know, if people try and lump Van Halen in as being some sort of, you know, like they were really interesting too, in the same way that ZZ Top were. Actually, there's a lot of parallels there, and I think maybe that's where Ed got some of his inspiration from. Was, you know, those artists that would do that stuff in the 70s, you know, and be, it's like, you know, be kind of, as time goes on, it's like things tend to get a little homogenized, you know, a little more. But it's like when a movement starts, it's really interesting how out there it can be, you know. And I don't know. Inglet to D is up there in the super chat and says, oops, sorry, I'm gonna go to this one. Thoughts on using Iron Man 2 Mini with IRs versus UA aux? Need attenuation and direct recording. I've never tried that with that, so I don't really know. But I primarily use the aux as a reactive load and recording device. I don't really use it for attenuation. The Iron Man 2 Mini, the Iron Man attenuators for passive attenuators are really quite good. You're going to be able to get good results either way, though, you know, either way. So, you know, I think that the attenuator in the, I like the Iron Man attenuator, if you're asking about what attenuator I would prefer. As far as a load, though, I think the aux is probably, you know, if you're talking about a straight up, you know, reactive load, the aux is probably preferable. I mean, but they're both good, you know. Anybody hear the new Jerry Cantrell song? I didn't even know he had a new song. I should check that out. I should. Epic cover band, Van Halen. Yeah, they were. I always say the Beatles and Van Halen, both great cover bands before they blew up big, you know, and it helped them being a great live band for sure, both of them. Because when you play covers, I mean, you do 3-4 sets a night or whatever, like the Beatles did and Van Halen, you know, it's good, you know. It just gets you into, you know, everybody sings usually, and it gets you into, you know, different grooves and learning things in different ways. And yeah, Van Halen was always really creative with the covers, although Ed didn't really want to do them after they, you know, I don't think after they were signed. But Dave kind of insisted on it, and I'm glad he did, you know, because those are some cool tracks. You're No Good, etc. You know, it's just interesting. How often do you play bass? Do you enjoy it? I love it. I mean, I don't practice it a lot. I just play on my songs that I come up with. But it's always really fun. Like I'd love to actually do a tour on bass. Just play bass, you know, in a band. That'd be fun. I'd love to do that at some point. Get an SVT and a bass and a tuner. No, maybe a little pedal board, very small. It's like 4 things or something, you know, and that is it. Oh my God, what is it? And all I got to do is play one part. I don't have to think about like 7 different parts and how I'm going to turn them into one cool part. That's so cool. So I do enjoy it. RJ's here. That's cool. What's up, RJ? How you doing, man? What's going on? What's new? What's happening? Oh, you were asking, what is your recording chain these days for tracking guitars, mic pre-compressor plugins? So I'm primarily using, first of all, with mics, I switched to a 4050 for my second microphone on my cab. That's in Audio Technica, and I did a demo of it recently, so you can hear it on there. But it's just a really, really great sounding mic I've wanted um, to use for a long time. It's a large diaphragm condenser. It's not a 1-inch diaphragm. It's 0.88 or something like that, I do believe. But still large, relatively large diaphragm microphone, and well respected for years and years and years with a pad that, you can switch in that pad and it'll take like 160 dB or something at that point. So it just has a very full natural sound on guitar cab. So that's number one, blending that with a 57 I've been doing for, about a month now. Into my APIs. So I have an API A2D dual channel mic pre that also has analog to digital converter that I don't use anymore in it. I just come analog out of the mic pre's, and I go into my UA what's it called, an X8P recording interface. That's it, pretty much. Within Logic, what I tend to do is generally blend both mic signals. I've got to set up a template whenever I start a new project in Logic that already has this going, but both mics blend down to one track, one bus, and then I can print, I can just get the balance and then print, commit, so that I don't end up with, the two mic signals, printing two tracks for every single guitar tone. That's a pain in the butt. You end up with like, so many tracks, and it just makes it more complicated. So, yeah. So that's it, man. What do you use? I should mention, I've talked about it before, but I also have a amp switcher, and I have one output. So the outputs of my amp switcher go to the Suhr reactive load, the aux stereo out, and then to my power station and on out to my cab. So that's 3 outs. Number one goes to the reactive load. Number 2 goes to the aux, and number 3 is the mic, cab signal, so that I can switch between the aux, the reactive load, or the mics on the real cab really easily, like instantly. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. That's it, man. If you can only own one novelty pedal, what would it be? One novelty pedal, like a wacky pedal? I would probably pick a weird fuzz or something. Just to have a unique sound. I don't know, or like a novelty. What do you consider novelty? Because I do enjoy, like, for instance, my Mobius has some weird sounds in it that I really like the lo-fi filters with the vinyl and the warble. I can get some crazy, sounds like a record player from the 1930s or something sounds, pretty easily, which is pretty fun. So can I pick my Mobius? Because that's pretty useful for that stuff. Thank you for doing the super chat. It's my friend at Pariah Pickups. I had a friend that bought a pickup from you recently, my friend Matt, and he said it's the best pickup he's used. He loves it. He says, I think his quote was, "This is the pickup I've been looking for 20 years." There you go. That's what he said. He's very happy. Now, Steve said Univibe. He likes the Univibe for his novelty pedal. Ben says he picked up a Rainbow machine a couple weeks ago. That could be one, I guess, another pedal. Audio Technica ATM 4450 is also a very good option. Lower price, smaller side address condenser. I think that's the mic that I have for my acoustics, the ATM 450. It's a little strange setting it up in XY, but it works just fine. I use it on my acoustic for stereo, and I've got a stereo pair of those, and it works really well. Ben saying 408 watching, only 94 likes. Come on, hit that like button and spread the video far and wide across the worldwide interwebs. That is so weird. Isn't the internet weird? So weird. Were you ever into the Dixie Dregs? To be honest, I listened more to Steve's solo, like High Tension Wires and like his solo albums that kind of came out in the 80s. Once again, it's just when I was growing up, that's what I was drawn to. But Dixie Dregs, I clearly remember, I mean, like buying Guitar Player magazine and seeing Steve on the cover with that crazy telly of his with all the pickups and, you know, Dixie Dregs, what's this music, you know? And it was him and Rod and Dave LaRue, right? Anyways, but I must say I didn't listen to that much. I should probably listen more to the you know, the early stuff. What else is here? What else is happening? Do you have any pets? I don't own any pets. They're not mine, but I have a cat that I consider partially mine. I do. That is awesome. Well, he's a little bastard sometimes, but he's also a really good friend of mine. So I really like animals lately, more than, I mean, of course, I've always liked animals, but lately I'm just kind of big fan of animals. I just want to hang out with animals. Who are some young musicians that you're excited about right now? Well, we were talking about Billie earlier. She qualifies. I mean, I don't even think she's 19 yet, is she? Or is she? Billie Eilish. I like Billie a lot. I think she's uber talented. Who else? Who else do I like that's young? I don't know. That's all I can think of right now. This is somebody that I consider, you know, like around 20 or something. But there's other people. Oh, my friend Derek Day is great. He's got this band that was supposed to be doing I guess they'll probably still do it, but the Motley Crue tour that has been postponed twice now. He's in this band called Classless Act, and he's the singer. He's an amazing guitar player, like really wild, kind of like, you know, like, I don't know how to describe it. Shred meets Jeff Buckley meets Hendrix. Kind of, you know, crazy and like crazy energy and stuff. And he's a great singer. So he got in this band and he's the singer in this band, Classless Act now. And they were opening that tour. So I was, you know, really happy for him to see that was, when I first met him a few years ago, he blew my mind at a show. You know, when you see somebody and you're just like, that guy's a rock star. Like from about the first, you know, half a song, I was like, if I had been on a label or at a you know, like an A&R person, I would have been like, I'm signing that guy like instantly within a half a song, where you're just like, he's got it. That's it. He's a rock star. And that's, you know, when you see Billy Joe from Green Day live or something, you see his energy. And he has that, like that, just kind of like frantic, like, you know, just, it's just a thing that some people have and other people don't, and he's got it. And he plays a lot. He's always doing these crazy live streams, and you know, even during the pandemic and stuff, and he would play these crazy outdoor gigs, and just wherever he can play, he goes and plays. He used to play on the street in Santa Monica on the 3rd Street Promenade, and he'd do, you know, that's a whole, you know, I don't know if he had I think he had like an amp with that he could play tracks through, and then he'd play guitar to it. But he was just, you know, he was running around and like playing these crazy solos and then singing his ass off, and just amazing. But anyway, his name is Derek Day, and you can check him out on, you know, your social media sites, and you can tell me what you think. I think he's fantastic, and the band is Classless Act. So he'd be about 25 now, I think. So I consider him young still. Yeah, really great. What else we got here? Chris Buck is a great young guitar player. He really is. He's a cut above for sure. He's fantastic. Do you like Jeff Loomis? I don't really know that much Jeff Loomis, to be honest. We talked a little bit on Facebook a long time ago, because he sent me a message about one of my videos that I put out, and we had a little back and forth. But I know he's amazing. You know, I'm just not that well versed in the music, to be honest, you know, but he seemed like a very nice guy, and I would like to, you know, listen more. Let's check this out. David says, I tried out the Gojira plugin and put the UAD PT100 in unison high Z input and was really impressed with the interaction. That's interesting. I've never done that, but that's a unique, I like the way you think. I mean, combining the two different the two different plugins to come up with a you know, maybe a stereo sound or something that's something that you couldn't get with either one on its own is a really interesting idea. I like that. Haven't tried it. I have to give that a try. The Gojira plugin is awesome too. And of course, I love my PT100 plugin, but Gojira plugin, I mean, pretty much all of the neural plugins are pretty great. Teammate says, is it possible to be a working session musician in Los Angeles these days? I think so. It really comes down to, I mean, that can mean many different things. You know, if you can read music and do like, you know, film and television sessions and stuff, you're in a different category of, you know, people I don't even know, you know, like this, that's it. That's like a different thing, you know, that's something that they would call Lyle Workman for, you know, or if you get in with a producer, like when I was doing, I'm gonna eat this, when I was doing sessions, more for records and stuff, it's because I was in with Linda Perry and she was hiring me a lot to do stuff. And it's kind of like Phil X. He would do a lot of Howard Benson sessions. He was like Howard's guy. So if you know a producer that's getting a lot of work and that producer starts to call you, it's the same thing for Rob Cavallo. Rob calls Tim Pierce, you know. But knowing a producer that's making a lot of records and then they call you for sessions is another way that you get a lot of, and that's probably the number one way. If you can hook up with 3 or 4 producers, you know, now you've got, you know, because when one of those producers, let's say Rob Cavallo goes and does the new Green Day record or something, well, now he doesn't need to hire guitar players for the next 8 months, right? So now you're out of work. So you got to have like 3 or 4 is the thing, producers. That's the inside secret to becoming a session musician in any city, I think. Producers do the hiring and they put the sessions together, and you know, you gotta network and find your way into those circles, and then get them to start hiring you. And you need 3, 4, 5 of them or more, you know, to you know, I know a lot of guys that do a lot of like the K-pop stuff, and that's a whole nother network, like doing stuff for those artists overseas or whatever, and they're sending you the tracks and you're doing those types of things, you know. If you can cultivate those relationships worldwide with people overseas and they're sending you tracks and you're doing them, now you're a session musician. So it's different than it used to be, but there's some similarities. Have you ever spent time playing PRS guitars? I had a PRS Custom 24, I think it was called, or I don't know if that was what it was called, but it was the cheaper alder body, maple top, maple bolt-on neck version that kind of came out in the 90s. So it wasn't the classic glue-in kind of PRS, but it was the same scale length and all that, just in a cheaper bolt-on version. So I had one of those in the 90s. It was a pretty good guitar. I remember it, you know, like there wasn't a ton of character, which I sort of attribute now to the scale length and 24 frets and all that. So the closer pickups, 25-inch scale, and then some split coil options and stuff. It wasn't quite it was a good jack of all trades guitar, but it wasn't, you know, good guitar. Just like you know, when a certain guitar's got a lot of personality, it sort of struck me as a more like, it was a little like homogenized sounding or something. But a good instrument, like a quality instrument, had a nice, you know, that tremolo of theirs, and it stayed in tune well, had a thin, wide kind of neck on it that played good. Now I also had a McCarty, which was a really nice guitar, and it was more like, it was like a good Les Paul. It had a great neck on it that had just a little bit of a V to it, and it was a 24 3/4 scale. It was Gibson scale, right? Because it was a McCarty. It was their version of a Les Paul, really, before they ever had a single cut, and it was a nice guitar. It had a nice finish. I kind of I like PRS, and now we're so far down the road with like the guitars, like, you know, Mark Lettieri's new model and John's new model. They have a, you know, we're so far down the road now that it's like a different thing. But back then, I remember having a little bit of trouble with the look, like of the double cut, even though it's kind of a Les Paul, but it doesn't really, and it was just kind of now it's like you know, all bets are off with this stuff. I mean, I was mentioning the Limp Bizkit show. I mean, you see Wes Borland up there with like a Jackson V with like a reverse headstock, and like I just saw some Weezer footage the other day, and he's also got a crazy looking 80s guitar. You know, like everybody's playing these 80s metal looking guitars and stuff, and yet they're like dressing like you said, like they just, you know, got out of witness protection or so. It's just like the you know, the everything is crazy now. So it's like you can do whatever you want now. I don't think people are so married to looks and stuff as we were in the 90s, or, you know, it's kind of crazy. It's interesting. I don't think, see, somebody said world's ugliest guitar. I don't think they're ugly, actually. I just think that they have that thing. I don't find PRS are ugly. I just find that it's maybe not what I'm drawn to play. But I think that they, I don't know. I'm not like a hater or anything like that. That's for sure. Okay. How do you set the placater dirty in the HX Stomp? Kind of like I would a regular one, actually. Like the C45 switch, the custom 45, like in the Friedman amps, it seems to open up the top end a bit and add a bit more hair and gain, just a hair, in kind of a cool way. And so when I had the very second Marcia that Dave ever made, and I used to use that sometimes when I would solo, like if I was recording a part and I needed a cool solo tone, I would turn on the C45. The treble bass presence, start on 5 and just tweak somewhere between 4 and 6 on all of those, and you'll find your spot. I tend to not turn the bass up past 5, maybe 6 with single coils, but I turn the fat off generally, unless you use single coils. That works okay too, to fatten up single coils, that fat switch. Treble presence, you're going to find your zone somewhere between 5 and 6 probably on the, you know. And then I like it without the gain crank too high, you know, like the gain on like 6 or 7 maybe, you know. That's enough for me. That's just a great rock tone at that point. Yeah. Do you ever play cheaper guitars like Epiphone or Squire? Dan Electro is my cheaper guitar of choice. I have quite a few of them, 12 strings. They're all my kind of alternative guitars. Like I did a video recently. Oh, you want to see a cool one? I'll show you a cool one. Check this out. This is a new thing. Still got the tags on it. This is a really beautiful little guitar. You guys are gonna be like, ooh, look at that thing. Isn't that cool? See the knobs? I mean, it's attractive, right? This is a really fun little guitar, and I did a video on it, put it up on my Instagram recently where I was playing it, but and you can hear it there on Instagram. It's probably like, you know, in the last couple rows of my videos. I don't put up that much more, or that I don't put up a ton of Instagram videos. I do 1 or 2 a week, so you'll be able to find it. This is 3-4 weeks ago. But anyways, blah blah blah. I guess they examined the pickups on a real 59 and they tried to just nail them and get it really close. So this is kind of a new model, and like I said, I've still got the tags on it. Sometimes I leave the tags on things for a long time. I don't know why. I just do. But it's a really great little guitar. I'm gonna put it right there. Ooh. For, you know, the lipstick tube thing, that twang, and it's cool. I have a Supro that's neat too, little short scale Supro, and I really like their baritone. Is great, you know, it's a lot of fun, so I have a good time with that. Yeah, Zachary says best looking Dano I've seen. I know, they're beautiful, right? Like that. It's really cool with the white and the wood top. I don't know if it's actually, you know, it's probably just the standard construction, which is, I don't know if there's any wood involved in the actual, you know, but anyway, it just sounds good. So yeah, good times. What else have we got here? What are you guys talking about? Would like to own the Dave Grissom PRS. I think the Dave Grissom isn't it not that different than the McCarty? In some ways. I think correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe somebody can go check. But is the Dave Grissom a 24 3/4 scale? That's what I would be wondering. I love Dave Grissom. He's a great guitar player, and he's a really nice guy too. And he's a I remember watching his, growing up, his, I think it was an REH video, his instructional video, which is, you want to hear some good tone. I think he's playing like a matchless head on that, but I know he's known for using sometimes like a 50-watt Marshall too. And he actually borrowed my 50-watt Marshall. My friend Ross Hogarth borrows amps sometimes from me when he's got sessions and he's got people coming into town. And so I lent him my Kelly head and my 50-watt Marshall for David to use, which I was honored to do because it's Dave Grissom. I listened to him in the 80s, So anyways, right. We got a super chat there. Who's that? Selin, what's up? Thanks, man. Installed 57 Classic in an SG. Sounds cool, but still sound with the volume on 0. Both bridge and neck. What did I do? That's a good question. You must have done something to screw it up, but I wouldn't know. You gotta ask a tech. Both bridge and neck. I can put in a text and see if I can get an answer. Let me see here. Let me see here, John Suhr. We're gonna ask John Suhr your question. God, why? You ever is there anybody I text more than John Suhr, and I just search his name in my texts, and it doesn't find it? It's probably nobody I've hit up more in the last 15 years, and doesn't find it. Okay, so we're gonna ask if someone installs 2 humbuckers on a guitar, and afterwards, when they turn the volume controls to 0, there is still some sound. What did they do wrong? What did they do wrong? See if he hits me back. Sometimes he does. ZCXVBN. Pete, many thanks for all you do. Thanks for the super chat, my friend. I appreciate that. I'm currently Axe-Fx 3 only, but I'm missing the amp in the room sound. Thoughts on playing solely through studio monitors versus occasionally playing amp in the room. Every time I play an amp in the room, I realize that I miss it. I got really used to playing through monitors, and that's how I do 98% of my playing these days, especially in this room. Obviously when I go on the road, there's still a cab generally, if I can have on stage. I like to have that. But when I'm here, I just play through monitors at lower volume. But man, do I love playing through a cab sometimes. It's nothing like it, I've got that little Suhr Ombre amp sitting there that's fun to plug into sometimes. And when I first got that, it's sitting right there. I plugged it in and I just played for 45 minutes. It was like, oh, it sounds so good. Just in the room, just in it nice, great. And even when I had the train wreck in here a couple weeks ago, through the cab, I would just play and I would find myself getting lost and just, there's nothing like it, that response with the cabinet. And it's something you just don't get out of a full range speaker. It's the guitar cabinet amp experience is a special thing that we can't really replicate any other way, I don't think. It never sounds the same, Any of the full range monitors that you then play your sound through, it can sound okay, and you can get a cool, like I did a video of the little head rush monitors a little while ago. I've done a few of them, of the different full range, things to play your guitar through, and you can get a cool sound. But I was talking to my friend Jamie the other day, and he was saying that even Steve Vai, he uses these monitor cabinets. They're shaped like monitors, but they've got guitar speakers in them, and they're facing up at him. And as opposed to getting your guitar in the monitors, he has guitar speakers in monitors, and they're facing up at him. And then he's also got the cabs behind him, so he's kind of surrounded with this guitar sound. But that's kind of what you do when you have, even if they're, Clare Brothers 1,000-watt, really nice wedges, and you get some of the guitar in the wedge, and you have some behind you in the amps. But it just somehow, it never sounds like guitar speakers. It sounds like coming through a mic and through a full range speaker replication of the guitar speaker sound. It's never quite the same. Yeah, there's no getting around that, I don't think. There's no free lunch, and so I actually really like that idea. Like whether it's little 112s or Mesa used to make a monitor cabinet that these Mesa Boogie, they look like a wedge, um, but they had guitar speakers in them, and I wonder if anybody still makes those, but it's a neat idea, especially in the era of the silent stage. Because if you have like a 112 and it's there like that, and it's like, oh, we can't have any sound on stage. It's like, okay, like if it's a PT-15 or something, and then you got one of those, and it's the singer's over there, and they've got in-ears in, they're not going to hear that. It's not going to bother them on stage. So maybe that, it's like a way to get around it. But is there a downside to using a 112 cab if you're playing small club gigs? Not really. I mean, the only thing I remember about 112s is that they sound kind of, if you're playing hard rock and you're expecting, it's never quite, it sounds a little boxy and small, but if you're just trying to get a little feedback, it's did you guys see, like, did you follow Paul Gilbert on Instagram at all? He put up a picture of a pig nose with a mic on it, and he's got it mounted on a stand, and I guess he's using that now. And he said, so now I can plug this in stereo with my Marshall. So I guess output of a pedal board, maybe a chorus pedal delay or something, comes stereo out, and one goes to his Marshall in the cab, and then the other side is going to this little pig nose that's mounted upside down on a stand that's close to him, I guess, and he can get feedback and stuff. Which is a neat, it's a neat idea. I just thought it was funny as a pig nose. I think he's a pedal guy. I mean, he sets his amps clean, judging from, he looks like he plugs into the normal channel of a Marshall Plexi style amp and then just turns that up, and it's, he's getting his drive out of pedals and stuff. So, yeah, no downside though, other than it's never going to sound quite like a 412 or something, A couple of super chats here. Advice for learning physically challenging solos quickly with 1 or 2 days notice. That's you just have to put in the work, and I would say digest each little lick one at a time. And it's amazing what you can accomplish when you really focus and don't just do the hard parts, like learn the solo and then find that lick that seems to be really challenging and is stumping you a little bit, and focus on that. And if you really focus on, at least for me, I'm to that point now where it's almost like, it's not like I'm, not tooting my own horn, but it's almost, at least with the kind of stuff I learned, like Van Halen, or it's not, some of this stuff that people are doing now. I mean, if they're in an alternate tuning, they're tapping like Polyphia or something and sliding around doing all that. I don't know what that stuff is. These kids, that's like a whole nother level. But if it's like the traditional, like I learned that Uli riff the other day I did on my Instagram. I learned that and then just played it. Like it took me half an hour or whatever to get it down, and then I played it. It's very slow. Doing it in Transcribe is the thing. I load it in Transcribe, and which is software that's, I can loop sections and I can slow things down, and I really hone in on every note and get it. And I don't play the wrong thing over and over. Like, don't futz the lick or whatever, and then, oh, how's it go again? Oh, how's it go again? And then you're just practicing the wrong thing. Then the key to getting it quick is super slow, note for note, understand it slowly, then work it up a little bit, and then a little bit, and then all of a sudden there it is, and then you've got it. I don't know how else to describe it. That's the process for me. It's like a fine tuning your spending your time well, and you're maximizing your practice time is, I guess, what I'm saying, and not wasting any time by practicing the wrong lick over and over. Sometimes we can tend to, like, oh, I want to get it now, and you play it over and over and you do it wrong. In MI, they taught us this, and it was like a thing that they developed, like, way back, the Howard Roberts, days of, MI, when and they called it mega slow, I think. And it was like, you play it so slow that you can't make a mistake and get it under your fingers. And I always thought that was the way to do it. What's a good setup for recording? Axe effects or Helix or Kemper with or without Synergy preamp, software processors? I mean, dude, you can do any of these things. Honestly, good setup. I mean, an Axe effects, people make records with those. Helix or a Kemper, people make records with those. With or without a Synergy pre, it's an option. I mean, you can use the Synergy pre with a Helix, like, and use it in 4-cable method, or with an Axe effects and have, one of those little, like, one space Synergy modules, and then you could put a pre in there and insert it into the, a loop 4-cable style on the these are all options, and it's really up to you. Software processors like Neural or GT5, they're good too. I mean, I what do you guys think? I mean, what's the camp my camp since you're in an apartment? I mean, I think the modelers are a no-brainer, and they've been a boon for everybody for doing this kind of stuff for sure. There's all kinds of people that make records doing things this way. Even plugins, the neural plugins sound fantastic. You could have no thing other than your computer and an interface, and use that Soldano neural plugin is amazing. The Gojira one's amazing. The Corey Wong one is great for clean. So it's great. PT100, I could make a whole record with the PT100 plugin. Maybe I should. I don't know. It's like these are not all. It's like I don't know how else to say it other than that you've got all these great options these days, and it just depends on what you want to do. Francis, invention time, folks. Maybe what you mean is just like what people used to do. I mean, I think Joe Satriani did a lot of recording in the early days into speaker simulators, like maybe the Palmer, amps into load and maybe an analog. I mean, I think a lot of some of the early stuff. I mean, maybe Surfing was actually done that way with no mics on cabs, and that album had radio hits on it. All kinds of ways you can do this stuff. So, yeah. We always have to remember that what was I trying to say? We always have to remember that a lot of the like Eddie and the Variac was him trying to get the volume lower. So he was trying to make it so that it wasn't so damn loud all the time, and then he ended up with the sound, or Rory Gallagher and the treble booster that Brian Gallagher, Brian May then adopted as his sound, and we end up with these great classic guitar sounds through necessity and people trying to be creative. And Richie Blackmore with the Kai tape deck in front to preamp it, because he didn't have anything else. It's like you end up with these tones that are neat, So now we've got all these plugins that are just like, there's so much, I saw Tom Quayle demoing some new one. It was the guy Tim from Polyphia. He's got a new plugin out, and then it's got crazy, like, it's got an amp that sounds like it's an acoustic simulator in it, and then you can blend that with like a DI sound. That sound amazing for kind of like that almost like 80s Alex Lifeson hyper clean thing, and Polyphia does some of that in their music too. So it's like now you've got that blended with dirt. It had a great sounding sort of Marshall-y dirty amp in it too. You can make a whole record with just that, it's crazy. So good stuff. I emailed you my alternative to having two guitars. I did it back before there were real amp modelers or simulation out there. I don't know if I got that, but I might have. I get so many emails that I don't. I miss emails these days, and it sucks. I'm sorry, but I hope I saw it, and thank you for the super chat. You guys want to see my, like, I got to clean out my email and get the junk that you get. You guys want anxiety? I'm going to give a few of you some anxiety out there right now. That thing that tells you how many unread emails I don't even want to show you this, actually. All right, I'm going to show you. Let's see. Can anybody see that? Not really, right? How do I make it so that it's not so bright? Maybe like this. Here we go. Can anybody see that number? It says 76,647. Fight me. I got you all beat. So sorry if I missed your email, Arthur. L. Scott Music. Lauren says you're too famous. It's not that, man. I just get too many emails from Trulia and from MacBall and from like all the bullshit, and I need to go through and unsubscribe from a million different email lists. And Fran says 10,000. Arthur says 12,000. Well, you get me then. You're on your way. You got a little ways to go before you're at 76, but where the hell is Satch anyways? Been off the radar for a while. He's probably working. That guy always makes records, and I don't know, he puts up stuff on IG and stuff like that sometimes. But Jose says, oh my God. You need filters. I do need filters, and I've just never done it. And it's like, this is the kind of things where I put it off, and then one day I'll do it, and it'll be like, well, where was this all my life? Why didn't I get this together? Thanks for your videos. Thank you, Randy. Thanks for being here. We got 475 people online. You guys are badass. Thank you for spending your Sunday with me. What are the sonic differences between ashwood, basswood, alder, mahogany? Okay. I say basswood always sounds. Some people would say that it's sort of muffled or ho hum. I think it's just nice and warm. It's got a nice warm thing that tends to work good for high gain. Sort of tends to roll off. That basswood is the A2 of the A2 magnet of woods. It's got a nice warmth and kind of a roundness to it, and I do think that's why people use it, for high gain for a long time. Ash tends to be, it depends how heavy it is. Like, and this is all with all woods. It depends on how heavy it is. I was talking about this with John Suhr the other day. He was mentioning that he thinks when you get too light with anything, you lose bass, and that's lighter wood just has less bass. So no matter what we're talking about here, if it's swamp ash and it gets quite light, I find ash has a kind of scooped quality to it, no matter what in the mids, but the less it weighs, the less bass you're also going to have. So it can tend to have a scooped kind of airy thing. That's swamp ash. I think about swamp ash strats and lower output single coil pickups. They're really, that hyper position 2 and 4 thing. I mean, that's swamp ash to me. If you want a real airy, scooped out kind of strat sound, you go for that. Now, alder tends to be, generally speaking, I'm no expert in this, but to me, it's always a little heavier and tends to have a more balanced overall sound. And that's why I really like alder, actually, because it's just a good middle ground kind of, it's like everything's there. It's all the frequencies. It's the G12H30 of woods. There's good highs, good mids, good lows, everything in balance, Basswood is the, I don't know, maybe the worn-in greenback of woods. Yeah, like that. Mahogany? I mean, it depends. My signature guitar is mahogany, and I feel like I always feel like mahogany's got a nice warmth to it and kind of maybe accentuates the mid-range a little bit in a certain way. And once again, it's going to really depend on it. Like, I've played different kinds of, if it's on the lighter side, it's got a nice airiness to it too. But if it's heavier and denser, it's going to be more mid-range centric rock and roll, less airy. And like when I had my Yaren done, there it is right back there. Gil was asking me, do you want the Jimmy Page thing, the big telly on steroids, or do you want a rock guitar, rock mid-range Les Paul? Because that's more Honduras to him. The Honduras, vintage, whatever, like new old growth, new old stock. I can't even think right now. Old stock, old growth. Is that what you call it? Old growth mahogany from, the Honduran mahogany. That stuff that they used on a lot of, Gibson guitars back in the day. He thinks is more mid-centric, but the African sort of variants can tend to be airier and lighter sounding. A little more the telly on steroids thing. And Gil swears to me that he's seen purchase receipts from Gibson from the 50s, signed by Ted McCarty for large quantities of African mahogany, whatever. I don't know if that's a kume or not. Maybe it's not. But whatever the lighter African mahogany stuff that he thinks it was used, certainly on, well, just kind of across the board, on their guitars, as well as Honduras mahogany. These are just source woods from all over the place. But a lot of people will tell you, oh, the 50s Les Pauls is just Honduras mahogany. He says, no, that's what Gil says. So hopefully that's helpful. I always love Pete Townshend's Schecter Teletone. That's interesting. That's a neat era too. That's right when that holds sort of a special place in my heart of, as guitar, because that's what, like, right when I was getting into guitar, when Pete was playing the Schecters. And right around the 82 tour when it was the farewell tour or whatever. It's kind of amazing when I watch it now. Like, I was really into it and I love the Who, but I must say, like, I just wasn't really a fan of Kenny and the Who, although they made some good music and I appreciate that. The You Better You Bet period and all that. Like, it's some great stuff, but Kenny and the Who, it just like, Keith Moon, it's kind of just weird to me because, like, Keith would never use a hi-hat, he was always just and then Kenny playing the same song. The hi-hat. And I don't know. I watch the videos now. I'm like, and I never noticed back in the day because I was just getting into music and just starting to listen, but it just wasn't the same thing, you know. But anyway, that was that period, of course, when he was using the tellies, and I liked it too. And I always liked Pete's sort of utilitarian approach to guitars, like you know, when he was doing the Les Paul Deluxes, and he would just put the big numbers on them, and they always seemed like tools, you know. And nowadays, even he does the same thing with the Strats. You see him play, and you know, they just seem like outfitted for, you know, piezo pickup or whatever, and you know, the certain pickup arrangements he uses. He's got one with two P90s in it, which was kind of cool. And it's just, you know, he's very like, these are the tools I use to make my music, you know, and a very sort of, that was the way he always seemed to approach it. But having said all of this, my favorite is when he plays an SG special. That to me is the, you know, whatever, the early 70s, whenever he went, like the very late 60s, early 70s, whenever he went to the SGs, that's the quintessential sound to me with the P90s for his particular guitar sound. Yeah, Cole says, thanks again for doing these videos. Have a drink on me. I appreciate it, Cole. Thank you very much for doing the super chat. Yeah, and having said, just to wrap that up about Pete, I understand why he would have moved away from the Les Pauls and the SGs, because they're a pain in the ass, you know, just tuning wise, but great sound. Live it leads, exactly. I mean, you know, a Strat you're gonna be able to bash it all night and stuff, and it's gonna be easier. So seeing him go to those tellies, those Schecter tellies, for sure, those guitars stayed in tune better and were easier to deal with than those SG specials with their kind of weak neck joint. And you know, I always wonder how he didn't break more of them, just being himself, you know, like not even trying to break them, but they're kind of delicate, those guitars. So John says, have you seen the Hook Amps Wizard model? I know they've got an amp that's a little similar to a PT15 that's actually, I think it's got movable pots on it, right? I think, like motorized pots. I haven't tried it. I know it's kind of a Europe thing. I've never seen one over here, but I know like Paul Davids did a demo on one. I'm gonna eat this again. Sorry, I didn't eat breakfast. Bear with me. Lauren says the lead player in his band had an oak Strat. Oak. Never seen that. Karina is great. John Suhr likes Karina. I know that. He's got a Karina guitar. Telly, I think. Pre-MTB says, how often do you use your aux, and typically what do you use it for? I use it actually kind of quite a bit these days, and the main thing I use it for is when I want a room sound. So like room mics. Like if I'm playing a solo and I want to get kind of a roomy, I want to print a roomy sound that's got, you know, some, you know, but this is not that focused, you know, close mic thing, which I like on solos and stuff sometimes. And also if I want to do an AC30, I'll go straight to the aux, or sometimes a Fender cabinet, like alternatives to my greenback mic'd up cabinet in the other room. If I want a 410 Bassman, I went through actually, and I went through and I programmed on the presets. You know, there's a knob with the 6 presets, and I programmed some that, like an AC30, a greenback, a Fender Deluxe 112 open back, so that I can quickly get to some sounds. So like if I'm doing demos and like I want, you know, that kind of cabinet, I can quickly get to those sounds, and that's actually made me use it more. So I highly recommend doing that, like rather than every time you got to open up the app and get into it. You know, oh, where's my preset that? Because I do find I like the app, and but I do find sometimes it's a little confusing, just a little, like, and it slows me down and it pisses me off a little bit sometimes. That's like, how do I get to like just a little bit? You know, it's basically great, but so programming the sounds on the knob where I'm like, okay, that sounds great. That's a great representation of a 112 Deluxe cabinet or whatever. Now I can just flip to it and get work done faster. So that made me use it more. So I highly recommend you do that. Do you know someone that does custom art on guitars? Thanks, Lauren, for the super chat. Custom art on guitars. Not really. I used to. That'd be a good question for Dave Friedman. Because I think there's guys like there's a dude that paints the Rock and Roll Relics guitars, and you can find him on Instagram. I'll tell you what, I'll find it right now. That's not gonna be that hard. It'll take me like 30 seconds. He's one of the best. Whoa! Hola. Come on. Look at this dog. Sorry. Okay, wait. What was I looking for? This is my mind on Instagram. I just completely forgot what we were doing. Oh yeah, rock and roll relics. There it is. Now right away I will be able to find a guitar that this guy painted. Finish work by no. Oh shit. Sorry, one sec. I think that's the guy. Finish work aged by. Oh, it was like a different. Okay. Well, this doesn't really tell me who painted it. R0B1EC, but he's private on Insta, so I don't know how that helps. Yeah, I tell you what, look up RN Relics on Instagram. That's Rock and Roll Relics. And if you do that, you're going to see like a bunch of his guitars and they're painted. Sometimes you get different people to paint them, and he puts all the whatever the accounts of the people that work on the guitars. So go there and look at the Rock and Roll Relics page, and you'll see a lot of the relic work to me is really great. Like stuff like that looks cool. Looks really good. So you can figure out kind of, or maybe send him a DM or whatever. And say, hey, who should I get to paint my guitar? You can send him a DM on IG. Yeah. What else we got here? Let's see. Michael Charvel does some great finish artwork too, says Douglas. There we go. Recommendation. I know Brian Ray was one of your mentors, but do you know Rusty Anderson? I've known Rusty actually longer than Brian. I've known Rusty since like 93, 92. Yeah, I mean, like, so I was in a band with a guy named Frank Symes, and we used to play gigs with his band. He had a band with a singer named Daniel O'Brien, who I worked with years later. I got in this girl Laura Harding's band. Daniel was friends with her, and long story. But anyways, just different circles of whatever. The North Hollywood crowd. And yeah, I remember seeing Rusty. I mean, I remember doing a gig somewhere in LA and Rusty playing guitar in that band, and seeing him going, wow, he's really great. I clearly remember him playing a red 335 that night. And this would have been 93 or something. And I met him that night. I've known him ever since. So he's totally cool. We both worked with Draco Rosa as well. He like played on a bunch of his records and early days, and the Mad Love record, which I did with Draco, which I did the 2 or 3 years of touring on. Rusty was the main guitar player on that album. I played a little bit on it as well, and he was a collaborator of his, and so we had connections over the years all the way down the line. You guys talking about Tom Anderson guitars. I've only actually ever played a couple Tom Anderson guitars. They're really nice guitars. And John has a lot of respect for Tom, and they kind of came up together, I think, in some ways. So nice guitars, but yeah, I like the PT-15. I agree. I mean, I think it still stands alone as a unique amp that we came up with that I think is an amazing tool. Maybe underrated. Did you see Jimmy Fallon pretending to be Keith Moon at home in Los Angeles? No, that's probably good. I'd like to see that. Yeah. All right, down to the bottom of the chat. What are you guys talking about? Do you have experience with Comets other than your Concorde? Not really, to be honest. I know the 60 isn't too far off, but Yeah, I've played through a 19 once, but not a lot. I'd like to try some of the other ones. I mean, I really like Hoagie, and he's a really nice guy, and he's a, those guys do great work. So, yeah. Not many people know this, but that beautiful guitar sound on the new Radicals, "You Get What You Give" was him. That's Rusty. Yeah, no, I knew that back then when he did it. And Rusty also played was that "Livin' La Vida Loca." That's Rusty on the baritone. Rusty did a lot of studio work, and probably still does. I haven't seen him in a long time. The last time I saw him was in Japan, backstage at a McCartney show at Budokan. How cool is that? But yeah, no, I went to Japan, and it was a great night, actually. We got off the plane and got in a van straight from the airport, and the McCartney show was that night. And so we probably landed at about 4:30 or 5 p.m. or something, and the show starts at 7:30, right? And we're at Narita, so we literally got off the plane, went through customs, got our bags straight into the van that we had rented ahead of time, because then we had the van take our bags onto the hotel so we could just go to the gig straight. And the van took us straight to Budokan, so right off a 12-hour flight or whatever, 10-hour flight. I guess for Dennis coming from New York, my friend, it was probably like a 14-hour flight, 13. And we went straight to a Paul McCartney show. And I remember seeing Rusty before the gig backstage, and then saw Paul at Budokan, which was the first time he had played there in that venue since the Beatles played there in like 1965 or something. So it was a really cool night. It was kind of an abbreviated show. They filmed it, and I don't know if it ever came out or if it will at some point, what the deal is, but they filmed it, and it was about an hour and 45 or something. So kind of for Paul, an abbreviated set. Sort of thankfully an hour and 45, because we were jet lagged like crazy when we got there. But that's a great memory. Like, it's when you feel like, yeah, I'm riding high right now, man. I'm like, I flew business class to Japan and then went straight to a McCartney show. Pretty cool. Good times. Good times. Let's see here. John Resnick, the Goo Dolls, loves the Rock and Roll Relics. I like the Rock and Roll Relics guitars too. I think they're cool looking, and they have a neat. Yeah, they're cool. Those Thunders models and stuff, and some of the best aging I've ever seen, for sure. Pete, when you talked about a line out for that wet dry setup, you described as the same thing as splitting the signal and mixing it back together with something. Splitting the signal and mixing it back together. When you talk about a line out for that wet dry setup. Well, okay. What you do is you take a tap off the main amp feed going to the speaker cabinet, and a line out box will do that, and it'll just give you a line level signal. Just grabs a bit of the signal going to the speaker and sends it out another 1/4 inch cable, and you can run it into some effects. And if you set that effect 100% wet, and then take the output of that effect into another amp, and you could run it into the front of another amp. That's actually what I guess what Landau and Scott Henderson do. They'll plug right into, say, like Landau uses a super reverb sometimes for that, right into the front of the amp, and then you turn it up. Now you've only got delay or reverb or whatever the effect is, right, in that amp. So that's all it is. It's adding a second amp just for the effects. Your main sound in the speaker cabinet stays, your main head speaker cabinet stays unaffected. Take a tap off that signal into an effect, set it 100% wet, and now run the output of the effect into another amp and speakers. That's wet dry. You can do it in stereo too. Now you got, if you stereo power amp and 2 speakers, you can have stereo effects. So hopefully that explains it. There's a super chat there. My wife won't let me watch PT anymore. Oh, come on, lady. Anytime she demos a pedal, it cost her $300 or so. Look, she wants like whatever she wants. She wants you got to get her the I don't know what she wants. I don't want to sound like a sexist, so it could be anything. She wants those new boxing gloves for her fighting class, so get her those. No, she wants new French doors. She wants to go on vacation. She wants, I don't know, whatever she wants, just get her that thing and then you get something too when it comes time. I don't know. What do I know? I'm not married. I don't know anything. Don't take relationship advice from me. You'll end in divorce court. Pat Wilkins, Dan is saying, does top-notch finish work? There's another recommendation. Okay. Who else we got here? Let's see. Do you know Kiefer? That's the fellow over in, you're talking about the gentleman in Israel, right? He's a nice guy. I've met him at the Toman guitar thing, as well as GitCon guitar things that we both went to together. YouTuber meetup thing. He's a nice guy. We did that with Phil X. We did all three of us playing the Smoke on the Water guitar solo in unison, which you can find on YouTube. Who's this? James. Thanks, man. Thanks so much for the show every week and everything you do for the guitar community. Top 3 guitar and amp combinations for you. I'll start. Telly in a box. Have a good week. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for doing the super chat. You guys are too kind. I will say that's a great one. I mean, Telly in a box. I could just as easily go Strat in a box. I'd like sometimes humbuckers into boxes too. That doesn't, but I know the leaner pickups with the kind of the boxy thing sometimes can tend to work a little better. I don't know, Les Paul and a Marshall, or how about my PT signature guitar and a PT 100 or a PT 15? Because then I can do my whole career. There's 3. There's 3 right there. I mean, I could play like for the rest of my life is what I meant by, with just my signature guitar and my amp, I could, make records and do what I need to do. Metal Mike says, do you think brass blocks on Floyd's really make a difference? I don't know, to be honest. I never got that into, we didn't do that stuff back in the day. So it was one of those things where when they started putting blocks on them, I guess it's a different thing, but I never experimented with it really, to be honest. There's just endless things you can experiment with, isn't there? And sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm going to dial in what I have to get a good sound, and the Tom Morello approach, because I want to get this song done. So as geeky as some people think I am about this stuff, I'm maybe not as geeky as some people think. Why does sitting for 12 hours suck so much energy out of you, like on a plane? That's a good question. I will say this: the business class definitely helps. There's absolutely no doubt. I remember the best business class flight I ever had once, and I just went, the best. I don't know why I did that. The best business class flight I ever had was going to New Zealand. And Air New Zealand was just fantastic. And I remember flying there with it was with a Melissa Etheridge tour, and it was this lie flat bed thing, and the food was good, and the movies were good, and I did not want to get out of that seat when we got. I remember going, "Can we just? Oh, we're landing. I can watch another movie. Can we just fly around a little bit more?" It was awesome, and so it really helps, And so now I'm a fan of even the, in my grumpy old age or whatever, I'm a fan of even premium economy. Like, you do those like Virgin Atlantic flights to England. If you can get the premium economy, it's worth it, man. I mean, sometimes it's kind of a lot, but other times when it's a deal and you can get it for like, if it's just a couple $100 or whatever, and you're not like really hurting for cash, it's kind of worth it. If you can get the recline, I always say in this chair is similar, like right to about there. And that is just enough to sleep without drooling on yourself or, like falling out of the chair like you do when you're in coach. And it really helps, like feeling rested once you get there. The whole thing about it, I say all this, but the reality is when you're on tour, you don't get somewhere and then have 2 days to adjust. Generally speaking, you land, especially if you're flying east or flying to Europe, but whatever, you generally have the rest of the day off after you land, and then you're working the next day. It's like the jet lag hasn't even kicked in yet, And so the most rested you can be in order to do a good job is, you don't want to get sick, and you don't want to it's hard. It's hard to go straight into a rehearsal the next day. And if anybody's ever been to Japan, the jet lag. I got good at it. I mean, I got really good at going there, and I went there 4 times in 6 months in early 2015, and like I was so turned around by the time June hit that because I just kept going back and forth and turning around, and it was unbelievable. But I got really good at it, and that feeling of getting there and then the next day you're in I just got where it felt normal, actually, like the jet lag, and I could just sort of do it. And little naps, that was helpful, little 10-minute micro things, to then I could go another couple hours. But anyway, what was my point? Just that the flights, anything you can do to maximize your it's very helpful, especially if you're not a kid anymore. It's one thing if you're like 21, but if you're it's Did you ever fly the Concorde? No, I never did. That was kind of before my time. I mean, when was that last Concorde flight? It was at least 15 years ago, if not more, right? Early 2000s. So, is international touring a thing of the past in the age of COVID? No, I don't think so. I mean, if there's any indication of what Lollapalooza looked like. God. Oh my God! Did anybody see any photos? It's like, wow, all in. I mean, on one, I have such mixed feelings, like probably a lot of people, mixed feelings. Like, okay, I hope that, I don't know. I mean, just like, wow. But here we go. I guess it's happening. What was my point? Just it's going to be the new normal, I think. And so developing whatever the new normal is, uh, we're still figuring it out. It's like the Wild West right now, isn't it? With all this stuff. Figuring out how to implement things and how to do things and how to and nobody knows because it's like it's a unique situation. So, but I don't think the world's going to stop anymore. It doesn't feel that way anyway. That's viable and that people are on board with that. So, I don't know. Not trying to start any political arguments or anything like that either. We don't do that here. But you know what I'm saying. It's just going to be interesting to see what happens. So. Local shows here have been beyond packed. Yeah, I'm just of the mind that I still don't actually personally feel like I want to do that. That's just me. It's kind of like but I'm not really like a get in a huge crowd packed in with people kind of guy ever. That's not my, it's not my. I just never really enjoyed that. So, although I like playing, I like being up on stage. So. Anyways, yeah, Concorde stopped in 2003. That sounds about right. Yeah, sounds about right. It would be great if you would make a video of a Laney IRT SLS. What's that? Is that a pedal? Which one is that? Tell me about it. Yeah, don't know that one. Don't know that one. Nathan Liberty is mentioning that Phil X does a thing called the Greek bouzouki tuning, also a thing with a high E under the pole piece on the neck pickup. He's a very creative guy, Phil. I was talking to him yesterday, and he was showing me he has a guitar that's like an old, like it looks like a bouzouki, or sort of like a Vox teardrop, really, but it definitely looks like a bouzouki too. He's Phil's Greek, and and he played bouzouki, and I love Phil. He's awesome. So he's a good guy. One of those unique individuals out there. That's a lot of fun. I really appreciate. Thinking about changing the V63s out of my Suhr Classic for something more chimey. Well, if you want more chimey, you want to go probably lower output. The V63's got some nuts, and so if you go to more of a 50s style pickup, it should have a little, less, brute force and a little bit more, less mids. So just consider that when you're getting them. Yeah. Your studio, ever sleep over, have a party, private bathroom, bang on the wall to quiet the neighbors, more rent than your apartment? None of those things, I don't think. Oh, private bathroom. We have that. Bang on the wall to quiet the neighbors. That's not really the thing around here. I'm surrounded by cinder block here anyway, and that wall is triple drywall with a layer of rock wool stuff in the middle, and then double drywall after that with green glue in between all of it. So, long story short, when I close the double door there, it's quite quiet in here. Although I do hear one of my favorite bands, actually, that shall go unmentioned, because I probably shouldn't broadcast where they are if anybody knows where I am, but they're on the other side of this wall, and they've been one of my favorite bands for the last 20 years or so, and just a great LA band. And so it's really fun when they're in there and playing. I can hear them even through. They're actually there's another building, and it's separated by about that much. So, and two cinder block walls, so I can hear them faintly over there when they're in there jamming. Sometimes I would never knock on their thing and tell them to be quiet, because I love. It's like, oh, they're playing that song. I love it. It's cool. So, small world out here in LA. Have you considering putting 2 output jacks on one of your guitar models? Are you wondering about, like, for the, so you guys talking about the Alex Lifeson Les Paul, like the piezo thing? I never, the way I used to do it, I have one Les Paul that's wired with a Fishman power bridge, and I put a stereo jack on it and then had a push-pull pot on one of the tone controls, so that if I went to the acoustic pickup, I could A/B out the same output jack. So in other words, I would use the same mono cable and go into my pedal board, and my pedal board has 2 outputs on it. It's got one going out of DI and the other one going to my electric rig. So if I hit that AB, now my guitar signal goes out to DI, and if I pull that tone pot at the same time, now my power bridge kicks in and the electric pickups turn off. So that's how I would do it. You could see me play the song No Such Thing by Chris Cornell on the Tonight Show doing that with that guitar. You can see me switch to you find it on YouTube, where I switch to the acoustic sound and I pull the tone pot, and then for the, so it's acoustic in the verses and then electric, and that's how I used to do it. You can do it with 2 output jacks though. I mean, if you've got it's just more stuff. You could have 2 wireless packs. I'm sure that's probably what Alex does. Like, 2 wireless packs, one going to his amp rig and one going to the piezo, and then however he hits a switch, and probably, I think he does it with an Axe Effects, actually. His acoustic sounds, I think. And he uses he might use some sort of IR on his acoustic sound. Whatever he does, it sounds great. Like whatever he did for the last few Rush tours, it was really cool. Ever think of reviewing the Nunneber Neuron? What is that? Didn't I do that? Somebody check. Is that a pedal that's out now, or is that some new thing that's coming out? Because they do have a new thing that's coming out. I thought I did something called the Nunneber Neuron. I forget. I'm sorry. Somebody tell me. Chad Atkins had 2 separate outputs for the top 3 strings and bottom 3 strings. He would play the bass line with his thumb and a melody with his fingers, and it sounded like 2 guitars. That's cool. I mean, kind of like the Ripley Eddie Van Halen. For those that don't know, most of you real Van Halen fans, you probably know that. But if you listen to Top Jimmy, it bounces around like this between the right and left channel, and that's the Ripley guitar. It's so cool. Nobody ever talks about that. It's cool shit that he did, The deal is, it had a Bartolini pickup in it, the Ripley guitar, and each string had its own pan pot, and there was 2 outputs on the guitar. So you could pan each string right or left to go at the 2 outs, out to 2 amps. And so the E string is coming out over here, and the A string is coming out over here, on and on and on, right? And so when you listen to Top Jimmy, that's what you're hearing, and it's very cool. Stealth Parrot says, Pete did the Nunneber Neuron review on April 21st, 2019. Thank you. Do you want a job? Be my assistant. I need you. Let's see. Don Felder did the same trick with his double neck in Hotel California for the separate neck. Cool. Yeah, that's neat. I'm pretty sure that's what Stuart Smith did when I was playing with Don Henley. That he has the same deal, double neck with the one thing going to a different thing. gain intelligence. Yeah, that's the neuron, right? The neuron was a Nuremberg neuron was a kind of an amp sim and a pedal. Really, that sounds really good, as I remember, like impressive. Yeah, yeah. Here's a medical professional. Flu and colds are way down, for sure. I don't know anybody that got a cold in 2020. It just didn't happen. Did you build the sound absorption yourself? Are you talking about my panels? These were built by a guy many years ago. And then in the wall, when this place was constructed by a dude that I hired to do it, that did a pretty darn good job. So there's insulation in the ceiling too, and green glue and all that stuff, and in the walls. And then these panels were built by a dude many years ago that I've taken them around to 3 different studios now. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Teammate says, you guys ever start improvising and look up and realize you've been playing for 45 minutes? I mean, that's the best thing. 43 minutes, precisely. That's the best thing ever. I love that feel, of, that getting lost is the coolest thing. Same thing with songwriting for me, where it's like, oh God, I've been doing this for 6 hours. I didn't realize that you get so hungry. I remember asking Chris Cornell about that. Like, you ever forget to go to the John? Like, you got to pee so bad that because you're working, and then you're like, oh my God, like your creative mind has overridden your bodily functions, and you're basically like about to, you're gonna run to the John. That's happened to me before. I love that feeling. Not that feeling in particular of having to pee my pants, but the feeling of like getting lost in music so much. That's what we all do it for, That's it's like magic. So cool. Arthur says, Phil X taught me a lot of awesome things in the past. Simplicity is the key to being able to do complex stuff. Elaborate on that, Arthur. That's good. I like that. Can you tell us in a comment what you mean by simplicity is the key to being able to do complex stuff? Because I like where you're going with that. Guitar Hack says it's a holiday Monday in Canada tomorrow. That's cool. Yeah. Tom says, I was at, how do you say that? Dulles? I always screw that one up. For an air show years ago, they had the Concorde do a flyover. Bad decision. Children on the ground crying, trying to cover their ears. Yeah, they weren't the most eco or, the sonic boom and all that. And they were, they're like, it's a good thing that thing's not around anymore. I think if they do it again, they got to do it better than that. It's bonkers, not efficient and loud, not comfortable from what I understood, kind of cramped and, just kind of from a bygone era. Yeah. Oh, brother. Okay. According to Alex Lifeson's video, he runs one output jack from his guitar to an amp, and then the other output jack goes to an acoustic IR. Yeah, I think he does it in the Axe Effects. The IR part. Totally, I forget to eat. It's a problem. Yeah. Concorde was exactly like rock guitar, completely unnecessary. Yeah. Just kind of like, oh yeah, I think I saw this too. I think United is launching supersonic passenger service in the next few years. I saw that a new plane that looks much, more. Yeah, it's just got to do a new one, newer, better, smarter, faster. What else we got here? I think it's almost time to go. It's 1:28. I'll go another 15 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna split. Somebody else said this before, but your sound paneling has a Canadian flag vibe. You're right. Yeah, I know. That's actually true. Doesn't it? It's pretty cool, right? I like that. It's true. It's true. Different tack. What do you use for polishing frets? Most of my guitars are stainless steel, so I don't generally, but I'll use some super fine steel wool if they're not, and I'll attempt to not screw up the fingerboard. The best way to do it is to tape it off. There's some good stuff out there though that you can use. Those fret polishing cloths, like from D'Addario, you can get those kits, with like look those up, with like a string cutter and a guitar polish and all that stuff, that set of tools, and they generally come with a polish thing for the frets too. That works okay. And I think you can also get from them a fret polishing compound or something like that. So look that stuff up. You might look at the Stuart McDonald website for that kind of thing too, and see if they have some fret polishing stuff. But that said, most of my Suhrs I have a lot of guitars with stainless steel frets, and they don't need it. So it's kind of a thing you need to do on nickel frets. What does green glue do, says Patrick Carroll? It's supposed to dampen sound. I don't know. I mean, does it really? It's this stuff that's actually green and gooey. Green glue. It's looks like, it looks like green Play-Doh or something, or I don't know. And it's just glue that goes in between layers of drywall, and and it's supposed to be sound absorbing. And so, generally speaking, the way to do a proper, Lauren can tell you more about this, but the way to really do a proper wall in a studio is basically two walls with air in the middle put together. So you've probably got drywall, maybe 2 layers of drywall, maybe even 3, with the green glue in between each one, and then you get your 2x4s or whatever the hell they are, and then with your rock wool in the middle, and then another layer of drywall on that side, and then you have an air gap, and then you do it all again with the second wall, and that layer of air in the middle is what really, that's where any kind of low end or anything that that's where it gets caught up. And then the rock wool and the layers of drywall and stuff with green glue in the middle help. So I didn't do that in this room exactly. I did 3 layers of drywall, the 2x4s with the rock wool in the middle, and then 2 layers of drywall, and it's pretty good. I mean, when I close both these doors, it's definitely as good as any rehearsal studios around here, things like that have isolated rooms. I mean, I do have the 2 doors. The 2 doors helps because you got the doors are where you can build the best wall, but if your door sucks, it doesn't matter, because now everything's getting in and out that little air gap at the top of your door. That it's incredible little, so you have to seal the doors, and the 2 doors help because doors aren't perfect no matter what. So it's like, you got the one door, you close it with seal all the way around, and then there's an air gap, and then the second door with a seal all the way around, and then your door is still the weak spot no matter what. Right, Lauren? I get that right? I think so. Green glue works, but doesn't do much. That's what I always. There's Lauren now. That's what I always sort of assumed, that it's sort of, The other thing that I did in here is there's no hole. There's as few holes in these walls as possible, really. So all the electrical is all run on pipes, like on the ceiling and stuff. So there's nothing like, if you see all the ceiling, it's all painted black, but you can see up there the pipes with the electrical in it. So minimal. There's one box on the wall over here for the light switches, and whatever's coming. That's where the electricals run or whatever for the switches. I don't know exactly how he did it, but the whole thing is, you're not, those like pot lights in the ceiling and stuff like that. When you've got those, now you got a bunch of holes in your room, and just that's more for noise to get in and out. So you want to seal up the room as much as you can. Favorite signal splitting device for using 2 amps at once? It depends on what kind of rig you have. I can do that with my pedal board. As I mentioned earlier, it's got 2 outputs. So I could run everything in front and have split coming out of my board going to 2 amps if I wanted to. So that's one way. Commercially available, easy to get. The twin bones from Radial is a good option. That company, Lechli, Laheel. Never know how to say that. They make some too, but the radial one is great. It's got an isolated B out with a phase switch. So you won't get a ground loop. You won't get phasing issues. Guitar goes in. It's got a buffer in it. Out 2 outputs to the 2 amps, right? There's different ways to do it. That's a great option. Just that twin bones. If you just want a simple one, it's a good way to do it. And they make Lechli. That's the company. Laheel. Lechli. They have a number of different ones, and but Radial makes great. I mean, with Radial, they make that guitar distribution thing where you can go up to like 8 amps. You know, from one. It's another way to do it besides the amp switcher. They've just got all these buttons that you switch on the front, and then you can split out to, you know, a bunch of different amplifiers if you want. So that's another way to do it. Anyone know of a good deluxe reverb and or tweed plugin? The Universal Audio one is pretty cool. I did a demo of it, the tweed. Deluxe reverb. I mean, probably a Helix is, you know, a Helix has a deluxe in it, and it's a good plugin. The Helix is like the jack of all trades plugin. I mean, you can use it for reverb, delay, for a phaser, for stereo chorus, for Leslie, for 800 different amp sounds. So it's a good plugin to own, the Helix native plugin. It's sort of hard to beat that one for, you know, overall versatility. Teammate says, thanks so much for all you do. Thanks, man. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here every week. You're always here. I appreciate it. I do. What else we got here? Best pickups for more chime. TV Jones, etc. The only ones I've ever tried are really the TV Jones. I'm a big fan of TV Jones these days, actually, because I mean, those are the pickups that are in my Destroyer, just a traditional set of humbuckers, but boy, do they sound good in that guitar. And his, you know, he's kind of traditionally the man for those Filtertron style pickups. And I have one in a Tressart. I have the guitar in the other room. I should use it on something. It's like I haven't used it for years, but it's a hollow steel caster that kind of looks like it was found at the bottom of the ocean or something. It's, you know, rusty green with a Bigsby. It's my only guitar with a Bigsby. I should break that out. I should use it on something. Why not? Yep. What else we got here? Can you recommend an affordable PAF style pickup? The Thornbucker. Honestly, it's cheaper than a lot of. I mean, it's not as cheap as a good old Duncan 59, which is okay. You know, good solid pickup. You can find those probably all day long for $60, you know. But the Thornbucker is a great pickup for not boutique prices, I don't think. And you know, I think people get them and they love them. So I wouldn't go that way. That's my PAF. Honestly, you know. How high do you typically run the channel volumes on the PT15 IR to balance the levels? The individual master volumes on the PT15 are the sends that go out to the effects. That's a good thing to be aware of if you've got anything in the loop. Typically speaking, I'll run the clean on 3.5 or so, maybe 4. The dirty channels maybe on 4, and then the lead channel on like 4.5 or 5, and then the overall global master, that's my overall volume, so I'll set it wherever I want. But yeah, you want to stay below 5, maybe below 4.5 with the, because you can get into the territory where you're going to start, you know, this is only if you're using effects. But if you've got, you know, anything in the loop, you just want to be cognizant of that because you don't want to overdrive the input of your effects. So those are your sends. And it doesn't really matter because you can always make up with the return volume, you know, so you can always kick the power section still. Running those masters lower, you know, within reason. Like I wouldn't want to run them, you know, I think it loads the EQ different maybe if you have them down really low. But if you've got them above 3 or whatever, you're fine. You know, somewhere between 3 and 4.5 is good. And just balance out your channel volumes. You shouldn't run into too much trouble with any of your effects than overdriving or anything like that. You're going to notice it, especially with the clean channel. If you've got a particularly low headroom effect or something, and you hit a spiky, the clean sounds are not as compressed, so that spike is loud, and you can overdrive an effect if you hit it too hard. So just be aware of that. And when you're setting your levels, check with your effect, hitting it really hard with your loudest guitar, making sure you're not getting some unpleasant clipping or something, and you'll be fine. Yeah. Are you going to show us how you get Blackmore tones? I mean, Richie's, to be honest, that dude's a mystery to me a little bit, because he allegedly, I think he recorded a lot with stuff that you didn't see him live with. So that's a whole rabbit hole to go down for sure. But, I think there was a 335 and an AC30 as part of the equation. So you see the Strat and the Marshall Major and all that. But it's like, yeah, it's pretty all over the map with, it's not something I've done a ton of research into beyond knowing that he definitely used an AC30 and that was a thing for a while, and probably with the treble booster, right? I think. But then he used to use the the Akai and the Strat later, and the Marshall is totally different. The thing about a lot of these guys is when they were in the studio, Jimmy Page is the same thing with the Tele and the Supro or whatever. When they played live, the Marshalls came out largely because. I think Marshall was proactive about trying to get people playing the amps and stuff, but also they were giving people what they wanted, power and volume wise at that point, because PAs weren't what they were or are now, what they developed into. So, those amps on stage with Hendrix or the Who or, all that volume, everybody ended up losing their hearing. I mean, that was the direct result of an era where there just wasn't the PA that, it was the dawn of hard rock and roll, and which demanded volume, and that's what people wanted, was big and loud, and it's almost like the opposite of now. By the late 70s, I think people were starting to realize that maybe that's not such a great idea, and we saw Eddie Van Halen using the Variac and stuff like that to bring volume down a little bit. But loud was the name of the game in 1971, 72, 73. Like back then, it was like big amps and the choice of stadium rockers or whatever, and you'd see like ads with like Hiwatts or Marshalls or whatever, and it was like the towering stacks. That was the thing. And so folks, what was my point? My point was they would use a certain thing in the studio, like you'd see Pete with a bandmaster in the studio, right? You'd see Richie Blackmore evidently with AC30, and you'd see even Brian May, if you played live, he had 3 of them going at least, so AC30s. Jimmy Page with little amps, and then bust out the Les Paul and the Marshalls for the power live. So interesting. What was a super chat there? My favorite YouTube show, says Dan. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for being here, man, in the super chat. You guys, I love you guys. Thank you. You guys too kind. Thank you. That's interesting. Prince Westerberg says that he had massively overwhelmed pickups. I haven't heard that. Do you know any more about that? You can tell us. Maybe there's an article you can point us towards or something about. Did somebody rewind his pickups in particular? Yeah, because it would make sense to me that if he recorded with something like a 335, a more powerful guitar or something, an AC30, and then live, it's like, oh, I want a Strat, but I want to be overwhelmed. I mean, that's Yngwie, Yngwie got a lot from Blackmore, and the HS3s, right, were his, it's a humbucker, basically, stacked, but he wanted them to look vintage. He didn't want to use humbuckers. The HS3 is really a pickup unto itself. Like, they don't sound exactly like single coils. They sound like they sounded, but it's still sensing a narrow part of the string, and it's its own thing. So I kind of want an Yngwie Strat, like maybe one of the original ones. That'd be cool. Cool to have one around. Just as I said that, I was like, but do I really want one? Do I really need anything else? Another guitar? It's just, I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Are you guys saying that my internet's slow or something, so it's screwing up the stream? Does it look all pixelated or something? Funky Wi-Fi, somebody's saying. I'm interested now. So you asked. So let me see. Trying to speed test super quick. I can do that. Speed. I'm just interested in what you're seeing, and if it says on my end that my internet is fast. So running a speed test right now. Here we go. Here we go. If it's slow, I'll just bail because it's time to go anyway. But well, my download speed's screaming. It's almost 700 megabyte a second for download. 665. Let's see what the upload is. Upload is, oh, a little on the slow side. Not terrible. 15. It's typically 30. So it's a little slow compared to normal. That could be because I'm on, though. Like that it's sensing that I'm, taking some of the bandwidth or whatever. It could be because I'm streaming. So I don't know. Something going on, says Metal Mike, but whatever. What can you do? Hi from Argentina, says Santiago. What's up? How you doing? Folks saying it's messed up. I don't know. It's what can we do? I can't change it now. It's time to go anyway. It's 1:45. I'll take another few and then I'm gonna split. What's your opinion on the brown box pedal? What's the brown box? That's not the thing that is like a voltage regulator, attenuator, or whatever for. That's what I think of with brown box. Is that what you're talking about for amps? That's the only one I know. I didn't do that, but it picked it. So let's look. Whoops! What happened? Why can't we see inside of number one? Wolf got everything less. Why can't we see it, Dave? What? Wolf got everything we see can do. Why can't we see it, Dave? Can get him to do it. I think you're having a. Are you okay? Are you all right over there? Don't have a stroke on us. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, Bob. Just a joke. I think you're talking about Eddie's amp. Well, we already have seen inside that amp. Dave's seen it. I've actually seen it. What do you want to know? What do you want to know? It's a Plexi. It's a Plexi with 100. What's the 100K feedback off the 4-ohm tap and a fat cap on V2 and a 50K mid pot and no bright cap. But you turn it on 10 anyway, so it doesn't matter. That's it. Nothing else to it. So you can make any amp that. You guys are all splitting. Tom Lynn, gotta go. Todd Roy's gonna split. I better split too. Anything else here? I just don't want to. What do you think about strat wiring with one shared tone cap versus two independent? I don't know. On my green guitar, I only have one tone control. My signature guitar, I have one tone control. I'm fine with it. With that, it's almost like part of me is like have one tone control, and then like make the other a volume for the middle pickup so that you can do like have a three-way switch and then do the blends, you know what I mean, with the volume control. I'd like to have one guitar wired like that so I could get the neck and the bridge pickup without the middle. That'd be fun. I don't really use I don't use two tone controls on this. As a matter of fact, come to think of it, my green guitar, my Cadillac Green Suhr, the tone control is only wired to the bridge pickup. So it's not on the neck in the middle. And so I can roll down the bridge a little and then leave the other ones wide open. I never use it on the neck pickup on a strat. Anytime I ever use the tone pickup on a neck pickup ever is on a Les Paul if I'm going for that thing. Sometimes it can sound neat with fuzzes to turn the phone control, the tone control all the way down with certain fuzz, for that sound, that can sound good. Yeah. All right. what was EVH originally used for the coin under the bridge? It was to, in theory, to kind of block the bridge so that when he would do Unchained, I think he originally thought it would set the bridge so it was flat, and then he could. I don't know if it was for drop tuning or not, but I think it was just to, maybe his bridge was angled back or whatever, and then he'd angle the quarter to something like that. I don't think he ended up not using it anyway. I don't think and he just left it in the guitar. So whatever he was thinking. When am I going to start a band with Steve Stevens? I love that guy, but we've done gigs together and stuff. You know, we do little projects together sometimes. Love to do another recording with him or some kind of tune or something one of these days. That'd be cool. Ben Coombs has got a show in a few hours. My buddy Ben. So check out his show tonight. Thanks for being here, Ben. And I think it's probably time I go. So you guys have an awesome week. I really appreciate you all being here. And thank you, Dan. That's the nicest thing. I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate you being here. I'm going to go finish a video for the hot mod thing that's in that amp right there. Little 12AX7, 12AT7 to add extra gain stages in your old 2203 or 2204 spec Marshall. It sounds really good. I'm quite impressed with it. So I'm recording a fun track with that. I'll do that. Also, video coming this week for a new pedal that's about to be released that I'm not going to mention. I'm going to do one for this Volta fellow here. He asked me to delay it a little bit, but I'm going to do it soon for this 1987 pedal. More. I got lots more coming. Actually, I can't think of anything right now, but there's all kinds of stuff to get to. Oh, this guy too. This I have to do. I'm late on this. This is the Blackbird from VS Effects. This is a sort of blonde deluxe, I do believe is the vibe here. A little bit like the Ombre, I think. So that'll be coming soon. There's a few that I got to get done here pretty quick. So. All right, you guys. Take care. You have a great week. If you haven't watched the Fred Durst at the Lollapalooza, check out his outfit. He does look like he just got out of witness protection, and it's pretty cool. It's just weird. I got a great laugh out of it. Oh man. Woo!